welcome to our channel. Please click subscribe button to see more content like this. Today we will talk about teen killers Antonio Barbeau and Nathan Paape. Crimes are generally carried out for a specific purpose. There is generally a motive behind every murder. Sometimes murders are carried out for financial reason, even for a small amount of money, like $155. This is the sum of money that motivated Antonio Barbeau kill his grandmother Barbara Olson with the help of his friend Nathan Paape. Sheboygan County is known to be a great getaway spot for weekends. Located in Michigan State, the town is actually a small and very safe place. Except for 2 missing persons and 2 murders of the first degree, there hasn't been much crime in the town since 1996. The town has a low crime rate. Since her retirement, Barbara Olson visited her daughter Judy every morning, almost every day. On the days she was unable to visit her daughter, she would call Judy and explain her the reason for not visiting her. On September 18, 2012, there was no sign of Barbara. She didn't call her daughter or leave a message about why she didn't pay a visit. The following day, Jody still didn't hear from her mother. She called her mother on the phone, but when she didn't get an answer, she decided to go visit her mother's place. When Jody arrived in Barbara's house, there was no one to open the door. She tried to enter the house by opening the garage door. When she opened the door, the first thing she noticed was that Barbara's car was not in place. Then she walked a few more steps and entered the house, and after a few minutes there was a phone call from the emergency service. Barbara had cut marks all over her body. Her arms and legs were extremely bruised, and the rest of her body was covered with a blanket. When the paramedics arrived at the scene, they removed the blanket, and what they saw was truly horrifying. They found Barbara's head wrapped in a plastic bag inside the bag. The head was almost in a state of identification. As a result of the autopsy, the weapons of murder were identified to be a hammer and an axe. The police realized they were dealing with a real monster. Detectives looked into Barbara's life and all the people she interacted with on a regular basis. Barbara worked as a volunteer driver for the elderly and was a peaceful person who had many friends. It seemed quite clear that someone who was loved so much would not be killed. Since all of Barbara's relationships were with her close family and neighbors, the police did not have any clues. At the same time, Barbara was not rich and did not have any enemies with whom she was in a bad relationship. When police began to examine camera footage, some details would come to light. In the examined camera records, Barbara's teenage grandson Antonio and his friend Nathan were seen several times. The police decided to visit the 2 teens at school on September 19 to find possible clues. But when they looked at Antonio's locker at school, they found a blood-covered outfit and shoes. The following day, Antonio was taken to the police station for questioning. The first thing the detectives did when Antonio was going to be questioned was to take off his handcuffs to make him feel more comfortable. Because he was not handcuffed, they would be able to read his body language more easily, and thanks to the ease shown by Antonio, they would be able to confuse him and get the real answers. However, Antonio thought that the reason for questioning was much different. They realized that a child who doesn't even care about social care workers and escapes from treatment can do other dangerous things. That's why they started questioning right away. When the police asked about the day of the incident, Antonio could no longer hide his concern, and his body language began to change quite harshly. In fact, his body language revealed everything. When he was interrogated by the police, Antonio also told about some of the crimes he had committed before. Antonio had previously tried to steal money by breaking into the house of a friend, and he had done it 4 times. All these details indicated how dangerous Antonio could be. His friend Nathan was also interrogated as he knew much about Antonio. Nathan asked for a pen and wrote down everything that had happened to Barbara. He wanted to avoid arrest by writing everything down, and when the investigators read what he wrote, they realized that Nathan should be arrested. When he started talking about his mother, Nathan burst into tears. This was a sign of great remorse. After he finished crying, that day Antonio started to admit what he did. After escaping from the social care center, Antonio was staying at Nathan's house. That day, they started making vicious plans. Antonio was telling Nathan how they could get money. After discussing their plan, the two friends started preparations to implement their plan. Nathan told his mother that he and Antonio would visit their friend the next day. Unaware of their plan, his mother agreed. She dropped the two boys at Sheboygan and left. According to the plan, the duo would break into Antonio's grandmother's place and leave after stealing money. But just in case, they hid an axe and a hammer in their clothes. The two teenagers entered the house from the garage. While they were waiting, Barbara noticed the children, and when she saw Antonio, she invited them in. After that, Barbara thought that Antonio might have run away from home and wanted to phone his mother about his visit. But when she turned around to reach for the phone, Antonio hit the old woman twice with an axe. At that point, Antonio was sick to his stomach, so he went to the bathroom. In his words, when he came back, he saw that Nathan had started hitting Barbara. However, Nathan said that he did it because he was afraid of Antonio. He was allegedly afraid that Antonio might do something to him. But according to the results of the autopsy, the woman was struck 27 with both crime tools. Antonio said that after the incident, they waited for 2 hours in a frenzy, not knowing what to do, and then they decided to put Barbara's body in car luggage and throw it in the pond. But they dragged the body to the garage because they were not strong enough to carry it any further. After that, they covered the body with a blanket and stole $155. In addition, they searched all over the house and stole all valuables. The following day, they left the body at the scene and fled with the car. They left the car in the parking lot opposite the McDonald's. They made a very clever plan. The duo put the car keys and valuables in the car, thinking that someone would steal the car and these items. Thus, the crime would be seen as a theft and the man who stole the car would be caught. They couldn't think of erasing their traces. Even though Antonio tried to resist the police when he was first interrogated, after seeing the camera footage, he couldn't lie anymore. The police already knew everything after Nathan told the story, and both teenagers were going to be tried as adults. However, Antonio claimed he was innocent due to mental illness, but it was clear that this would not work in light of all the evidence. Thus, he decided to change his plea of not guilty. In June 2013, Antonio was convicted of first-degree murder. He was still trying to mitigate his sentence in court. That's why he said during the trial that he only hit his grandmother Barbara twice and then went to the bathroom. When he came back, he saw his friend Nathan hit the old woman with his axe. Nathan was sentenced to life imprisonment with a possibility of parole at the age of 45. This was a slightly lighter sentence than the one Antonio would receive. Antonio will be eligible for a parole only at the age of 50. After hearing their sentences, the teens started shedding tears in the courtroom. Nathan's aunt pleaded with the judge to get her nephew's sentence reduced, saying that Nathan had the mind of a 10-year-old child and could be easily manipulated by someone with psychopathic tendencies like Antonio. The judge was not convinced and said at the end of the trial, "I have never encountered such gruesome case in my 24 years of professional life.